Look, if you're going to hunt solo, mano y mano, you better have your crap together. That includes our other two solo type scenarios as well. Sure, there's some benefits to being all on your lonesome, but there can be some drawbacks as well. The key is in knowing what those drawbacks are, understanding and being ready for them. On tonight's part two of our solo elk hunting series, the benefits and difficulties for each of our solo scenarios. Those topics, along with our ElkBros shout outs in today's ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your hosts Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilliam. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host for your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and from New Mexico, our elk hunting coach, Joe Gillia.
Hey, Gilbert.
How's it going, brother?
Oh, a little under the weather over here, man.
Oh, man, I hope we ain't got no corona or Dos Equis virus, huh?
Dos Equis virus. That's what I got over here, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Man, I tell you, Joe, this country's in a state of pandemonium. No pun
yes,
intended.
it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to give everybody some normalcy here, man. We're going to take them into elk camp. We're going to kick our feet up. We're going to I might cough a little, y'all, but I think we have our what do they call that? What distance? Social distance or
social distance?
Yeah, I've got that going
social
on, man.
Isolation, something, man. I don't know, but I'm proud to be rocking the elk.
Looky there.
Flag. Got a little T-shirt on too here.
Yeah.
I will show you the back, but that'd give that kitty cult leader over there in Katy a little bit too big a head. You know, I told you, Joe, when you give one of these to Manano or to Luis, you got to make sure you give him the big hole for his head, because when it goes over it, it's just going to fall straight to the floor, Joe. I mean, that old big-headed rascal. All kidding aside, these are fantastic shirts. Y'all did a fantastic job with this stuff.
Oh,
Joe.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I enjoyed packing yours up and shipping it off to you. That was pretty cool.
And I'll give a shout out here to the lady that did it here in Houston, Texas, Miss Brandy Butler, with
Absolute Sports. I got you.
Absolute Sports. Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks, Joe. It's Absolute Sports here in Spring, Texas. Brandy Butler and her staff does a fantastic job. She does a lot of stuff for our softball program, and she hooked Joe up, and it's been fantastic running with those people.
First series, man, historical event. Brandy put it together for us, so that's awesome, man. And we want to welcome everybody to this part two of our solo series, Gilbert. And I bet when a lot of guys went on last week and they said, "Oh, solo archery hunting," and then we started talking about groups and we talked about partners, they're like, "What the heck? I thought these guys are talking solo." So I really, really hope that everybody understands that, and I want to be clear that there is solo and there are solo techniques, that having that skill set, that's what will allow you to be ready and successful in any scenario, whether you're going to be out there, like you said, mano y mano, man. If you're Jeremiah Johnsoning out there, or if you're having to, if you can have the best of both worlds, that's a great part of it. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons here a little bit. But you can do that. You can be with the group and then you can hunt solo. And there are times, I guarantee, because it's been that situation with me, you can be with people and still need those solo skills if you're going to get an animal as well called into you, or if you got a partner that you're right on their hip belt and calling an animal in, you are actually using solo skills to be able to do that. So all of these are real important to this message and what we're trying to convey out here. And so next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the plans, having plans in place for the various aspects of a solo hunt, because we're going to talk about the benefits and difficulties tonight, bro. And then we're going to talk to and give people a plan to overcome those difficulties. And then the coup de grace is going to be on part 4, man. Part 4 is going to be the solo hunting and calling strategies. So,
ooh, man, that's when we dive into the meat and potatoes.
yeah. But
everybody's in for a really good series here. It's going to be some really great content that Joe and the boys are going to drum up for you. So y'all keep your bootstraps on and stay tuned for sure.
Yes, sir. You betcha.
Well, Joe, you know what time it is, brother.
Shout out.
It's time for the ElkBros shout outs. If you're new to the show, these are just the shout outs to our few cities with most listeners topping our charts this week.
Yes, sir. Up first, this unincorporated town of Las Vegas. Man, it seems like, is it just me? Or are we always talking about a town around Las Vegas, man?
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of listeners in that area.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. This unincorporated town of Las Vegas is built on land previously occupied by the Stardust International Raceway and is the home of tennis players Andre Agassi, Steffi Graf, as well as former Sacramento Kings owner George Maloof. And I don't know if you've ever seen this comedian before, man, but this guy just rolls me. Comedian Carrot Top.
Yeah, man.
Carrot Top.
Carrot Top's from back in the day now.
Oh, he's hilarious, man. Also, if you visit the Chinatown Plaza in Las Vegas, you are actually in our top listeners location for this week. You are in Spring Valley, Nevada.
Spring Valley, Nevada. Man, they must be a whole bunch of little cities incorporated around Las Vegas, kind of like Houston. You know, got it. You got Katy, you got Kingwood, you got Spring, you got Tomball. All those cities are incorporated around Houston area.
That make it up, right?
Yeah, Spring Branch. I mean, the Woodlands. You name it, that make it up for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. You get the benefits without paying the taxes of. So that kind of helps. Yeah,
no doubt. Well, cool. Well, next up, Joe, Shawnee and the Osage Indians formerly owned the land and developed into our next city. Now it's the bedroom community for families living in the greater Kansas City metro area, right? So, and if you do visit and find the need for incredible Mexican food, we hear that the place to go is Cacao Restaurant. And the name for the cocoa bean. So that's what it's named after, I guess, the Cacao Restaurant.
Cacao.
Right. The focus here is what is referred to as the electric foods of Mexico. Dishes from the regions as diverse as Puebla, the Yucatan, Guadalajara, and you can find that flavor here in none other than Prairie Village, Kansas.
Prairie Village, man. You know, it's funny. You don't think about going to Kansas to get good Mexican food, you know?
I fished in Lake Milford one time, and there was a good Mexican restaurant there. And it was just outside of Lake Milford there. And I can't remember the name of it, but the guy was actually from Sinaloa. And he'd come to Kansas and started a Mexican food restaurant. And man, he had some really good Mexican food there.
Wow, man. Yeah, that's what I say. They say the place to go is that Cacao, man, for, if you want that. And don't go there thinking you're just going to get tacos and burritos, that they're really into that cultural, upscale, eclectic food, man. So pretty cool. Up next, French for beautiful city. Our next listener city became known as the stove capital of the world. Also, the first brewery in Illinois was established here in 1868. And Gustav Golitz founded the candy company that is known today for making the Jelly Belly jelly beans right here in Belleville, Illinois.
Belleville, Illinois in the house.
Yes, sir.
Jelly beans. Wow. My grandpa loved jelly beans, man, especially the black ones. It kind of tasted like licorice.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, you threw me a tongue twister there a minute ago. I had electric, and it's eclectic.
Eclectic,
right?
yeah.
So, you know, this old cowboy knows what eclectic is, but
Well,
I really like it when it's electric. Okay?
I hope somebody would ever explain to me what eclectic is, man, because I was standing up better
That's
with
another
electric.
show, Joe. That's another show. Maybe we can do it on something like that, right?
And y'all, please bear with me too. Like I said, I just getting over this bug, whatever it is. It seems like last year was the same time that year last year, right?
Yeah. One man
That's
saw
pretty
these
crazy.
pollens popping out and stuff like that, getting our allergies in an uproar.
Yeah. All right, you're up.
Next up, Joe, on our next town received its royal charter on July 21st, 1761. At one time, the pine trees here were so tall and straight, they were reserved and used as masts on the ships of England and the Royal Navy. But today, when warm weather hits, you can join hundreds of others cruising the amazing natural lazy river in Vermont. Grab a tube and travel thousands of feet down the White River, enjoying Vermont's beauty in days gone by in Stockbridge, Vermont.
Stockbridge, Vermont. Thank you, all you people listening out there in Vermont, man. It's amazing to me. We continue to have people from all over the place that are listening to this podcast. It's just so cool, Gilbert. Yeah, it's just awesome, man.
Well, it ceases to amaze me, the cities and towns that pop up, you know.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny is that White River that they talk about, this next city I'm getting ready to mention also mentioned the White River going by. So I'm curious if it's the same one, if they connect, if it, you know how that goes. So let me just go. Last but not least, this city shares a border with Indianapolis and is the most populous suburb in the southern portion of the Indianapolis metropolitan area. But if you're in this neck of the woods come August, you got to go check out the rockin' great time at Wham Fest. Wham Fest. And that's with 2 M's, Wham Fest. Yep, y'all, it's all about wine, arts, music, and microbrews. Shop booths for unique arts and crafts and rock out to up-and-coming bands in Greenwood, Indiana.
The Indiana people show up, man. That's awesome. You know, all these eastern states and everything are showing up, man. The elk are starting to move out that way. You know, Kentucky's got a good herd. Pennsylvania's got a good herd. It's fantastic for all, you know, Illinois and Vermont and all those states out there around Pennsylvania, New York, and all those
states. And it's a good thing too, man, because a lot of these western states are getting a little more choosy about giving out their tags. So
yeah, well, I hear it's not real easy to get a tag up in Pennsylvania or Kentucky either. But you know, at the end of the day, I mean, we just keep putting in, people. You know, you never know when you draw that coveted tag. Be ready to go.
Yep, there we go.
Well, Joe, you know, last week we talked about 3 types of solo scenarios.
Yeah.
You know, first there's the all by your lonesome. I mean, you know, no one, not even your mama, nobody's there to help you solo. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Then there are those guys with a group at camp.
Yeah.
But they're out hunting solo. And then those guys with a partner or others, but they have to use, you know, solo tactics to call in a bull for themselves.
Right. Absolutely.
And then let's talk about the benefits and difficulties when it comes to each one of those solo scenarios.
Yeah.
We talked about last week.
Yeah, because hunting solo is something, you know, it's so unique, Gilbert. And really, a lot of people think about, this romantic thing, go hunting solo. But, dude, you have to have a passion for it, because when you're out there solo, dude, you truly find out or reaffirm things about yourself, man. I mean, we just put on, I just put a thing out on Instagram the other day that says, if you know, when I go elk hunting, I find something else out about myself along those lines. And that's a fact, because you got to really have a passion to be a solo hunter, because it is, you know, it's not as easy, man. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to overcome when you're out there solo hunting. So I think it's important that we talk about these difficulties and we talk about the benefits, and I want everybody to understand that these are going to be relative according to each person, because we all bring something to the table. Some of us are comfortable as heck being in the woods. It doesn't matter whether it's day, night, bad weather, good weather, but that's going to depend, man. It's going to depend on your ability level. It's going to depend on your mental and physical conditioning. Now, you notice I put both of those in there
No doubt.
because, when you're by yourself, I mean, when you and I are out there and it gets tough, you always got somebody that's kind of, saying, helping you out. Let's go, bro.
Yeah,
I've got your
pushing you
back.
along when you're ready to throw in the towel.
Yeah, right. But when
Yeah,
you're all by yourself, man, you got to be solid mentally. And if you're not solid physically, it makes it even harder on your mental state, you know? So,
definitely.
you got to think about that when we talk about this, is that solo scenario is a little different for each person. And we're going to start talking about the benefits and difficulties of being totally solo first. And then we're going to kind of bring in how that changes and how it's mitigated with the other scenarios, you know. And I think I'll handle the benefits, and if you can think of some of the difficulties, uh, we'll start out there. What would
Sure.
you say is the first difficulty?
It's just you, brother. It's just you, right? I
Yeah,
mean, dude, that's a hard job. It's all about you. When you have a limited skill set, getting into an animal that's in close. I
right,
mean,
right,
close enough for a shot.
right.
Being a single caller and shooter. I mean, that's a tough deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now, you always hear people talking about the classic hang up, right?
Hmm.
That bull. Now, I want all of our listeners to understand is that we have answers for these, and we have a plan to overcome some of these. But that's, the plan's going to come in the next one. And we're really going to talk about, like, when we start talking about calling and our calling strategies, we're going to tell you how to beat that. But that's one of the difficulties there, is that you're the only caller. And so,
All on you.
yeah, it's all on you. You don't have somebody back there 30, 40, 50, 60 yards to steer that bull by you. It's up to you to bring that in there. And depending on your skill set, like Gilbert says, man, it's just you.
Yeah.
So your success and your ability to close a deal is going to be limited by your skill set. And so on the other side of that, Gilbert, the
What's
benefits,
the
bro,
benefit? Yeah.
yeah, the benefits is it's just you too.
No doubt. That's right.
you know
Y mismo. Yeah, it's the
yeah,
same.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is when you're by yourself, you've got that freedom, man. You get to make all decisions: when, how, where you're going to hunt, what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, when you're going to drink, when you're going to sleep. you know all of this is on your own time. It's not a democracy anymore. you know
Right.
it's uh but again, it goes back to that other side there. Like you said, there's some things uh that can make that difficult as well. But it's sometimes when you don't have to deal with other people there, it just has such a freedom to it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a huge benefit, that you have all that.
Yeah, I think no doubt there are pros and cons to both.
Right,
But anytime you can get out in the woods, if it's only you, then I mean it is what it is.
right,
You've got to make hay while the sun's shining. You got to get yourself close, and then you got to close the deal. You know,
right.
and look, another one of the difficulties, they don't call it alone for nothing. And can you be mentally tough?
Yeah, right.
There's no one there to keep pushing you.
Mhm,
Like in our camp, there's nobody there to keep pushing you, keep encouraging you. You know,
mhm.
so beating back some of your fears that you may have may be pretty difficult.
Yeah,
You know,
no, that's absolutely right, man. Because I don't know if you've ever been out uh, in the woods by yourself. Probably day one might not be so bad, but day three, you're out there all by yourself. You're in the dark, and you know what? Fear is a healthy thing, Gilbert. I mean, fear is
sure,
what helps us to make the right decision sometimes, not to do
yeah, a
something
healthy
stupid.
amount of it, sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it also can be something that can start to freeze you up, and it can
Oh, it can
start to,
debilitate you for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I mean, another one of the difficult things is you got to slow down at night.
right.
You be much more methodical.
R-
There's just so many things in that little in that little box that can work against you. But there are some really good things about that as well, Joe.
yeah, absolutely. I just wanted, when you said though, they don't call it Alone for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched that show Alone. Have you
Oh
seen that?
yeah. Yes, sir.
And when these are people that have incredible skill
Skill
sets.
sets. Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, these are survivors. These are people that can go out there and they can survive. They understand things about the force I only wish I knew, right?
Yeah.
But they end up tapping out. And you know what the number one reason is they tap out? All
What's that?
mental. It's
Oh
all,
yeah, man. It's not physical. 90% of the times they can't deal with the mental stuff.
yeah,
They can't
yeah,
deal with the little things that mount up into a big thing. You
yeah,
know, it's not just one thing. They'll have a whole bunch of things that are little, but
right.
they'll stack up into a big thing, and they can't push past it.
So you gave a difficulty, I'll give another benefit.
Sure.
Here's another benefit of being solo. No timelines, right? It's like, I don't know if you've noticed, but like when you're with somebody, it's like you can feel this pressure that you need to be back at camp by lunchtime, or you need to be back at camp before it gets dark, or we need to be from point A to point B by a certain time. Um, so that's the great thing is, if you're hunting solo, you don't have those same timelines, man. It's just whatever you are feeling, you can do that. Now, I will say this though, even though you don't have those timelines, it is important for you to leave a hunt plan with somebody and stick to it. I mean, you got to make sure that you give somebody locations, dates of your time in and the time that you're heading out, because yeah,
Safety is the most important thing.
right. And again, we're going to talk about that on our plan when we get there. But I want people to understand that, yeah, you're on your own timeline. And there are people that just fall off the face of the earth. But when you do that, you're taking a big chance. And if you're somebody that's all alone, that you have no responsibilities, you don't have family, and that's all good and stuff. But, if you got mama and the kids at home, you got some things that you really need to make sure you're taking care of to give them peace of mind as well.
Well, sure, because you got a responsibility to take care of them.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
when we started having a family and having kids, it wasn't about me anymore. It was about taking care of them. I'm just blessed to be able to get out in the woods for 5, 10 days and go chase these critters. My family allows me to do that to kind of be a better dad. You know,
Right.
it's one of the things that I just do for myself. And so at the end of the day, I want to make sure they're comfortable with that and they know what's going on. I mean, Joe, I have a sat phone, so I mean, we can always get in touch with somebody as long as we got good view of the sky. We can get in touch with somebody if we need them.
Right.
But we'll
Absolutely.
talk more about that stuff, like you
Yep.
said. Like,
Absolutely. It's
you
going
know,
to come up. So what would you say
you
is
know,
another difficulty?
yeah. I mean, look, one of the difficulties that I saw real quick when when we started hunting together and we had success was, no doubt, if you're by yourself, brother, gutting and quartering and breaking down an animal is a huge chore. I mean,
So this actually gives me a chance, because there was actually a question that came in on our ElkBros mailbox from Ryan Wietrick from Temecula, California. Is that how you say that? Temecula?
yeah, Temecula.
Temecula, California. And he asked that exact question because he said, he said these elk are large animals and can't be hard to move, let alone process. Maybe you guys have had some of the same experiences. Can you share them or go over any tips on moving or breaking down an elk on your own? And
Yeah.
as a guide, I've had to break down a lot of elk even though I have somebody there. A lot of times it's basically to hold a hoof. So what I would tell like Ryan, and when we're talking about something like this, is you're absolutely right. This is one tough thing to do, is gutting and breaking down an animal by yourself, because you're figuring 60 to 80 pounds, one of them quarters there.
Easy.
Yeah, about that.
Easy.
Um, a shoulder can probably go 40, 50, but when you're talking that
Hindquarters
hind quarter, that
can
can
be
go
up to
60,
100
80
pounds.
to 100 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that can get tough. And the hard part is when you're trying to do this stuff and you're trying to get it out of the way so that you can be responsible, get all the meat off,
It is definitely difficult. Again, we'll talk more about the preparation on how to be prepared to
Yeah.
do those kinds of things, but it's extremely difficult, and then also, in some of our areas, we got to be aware of predators,
Yeah.
some areas more than others. We got grizzly bears, wolves,
Yeah.
coyotes. I mean,
Definitely.
you name it. Anything that hits ground that's got bloodshed on it, it's a kill or be killed world out there in the woods.
Yeah, that's the hard thing about being by yourself, is if I'm working an animal, I'm not able to have my eyes behind me. So
Yeah.
that's something for those guys to think about. They're going in those types of areas, when they're doing that. But I wanted to add, I kind of went off the air there for a second, Gilbert, and you filled in
That's
for
all
me
right.
because I'm over here coughing. But, I wanted to make sure that I told Ryan that the biggest part of doing that is basically trying to get a leg so it's held up. Just like they've gone to, when you take a look at all of the type of clothing that is out there now, um, this extreme clothing, this high quality stuff that people are buying, it's all based from and comes from mountaineering clothing. And I would tell you that some of the answers for doing this elk by yourself comes from mountaineering too. You can get
Oh
some
yeah.
of those carabiner gadgets that you can
Yeah.
tie a rope off, and you can get it on a hoof, and you can pull it up on a limb so that it's not going to go down. You can pull it off to the side. It'll lock that rope as it's pulling it through. And there's some small ones that are very light. They're not cheap pieces of gear because they're specialty items. But I tell you what, for a lone guy out there, you can get one of those and tie off one of those legs and pull it, and being able to keep it out of the way. And then when it needs to cut off, that you have that to help you, hoist it up. They can be lifesavers too. So I would say look into some of that. Even just a little pulley system, something that's light that can go inside your pack to help you out when you're by yourself, man.
Yeah, and for me, keeping my meat clean is kind of paramount for me. So
It's
I always
huge.
carry cheesecloth with me. You can find it pretty inexpensive, and put it in your pack. It doesn't weigh a whole lot, and when you can get your meat put in one of those cheesecloths, it just keeps it clean
Right.
of debris and stuff like that. And
Right.
then that's the most important thing when you're getting to breaking one down. You want to get him to where it's clean. And of course, Joe does a method too where you don't have to have cheesecloth. You leave the skin on him and you skin him when you get back to camp. I
Yeah.
like that. I mean, you just need maybe one cheesecloth to put your neck meat and back strap in, and tenderloin. But other than that, I mean, you leave the hide still on the
But
shoulders and the
the
hands.
difference though, Gilbert, is I'm usually within close proximity of a four-wheeler where I can
That's right.
get to it with multiple guys. And so that's just to keep it clean till we get it. We're going to get it back to camp in no time. We're going to have that skin off.
Yeah,
If you're out there and you're 2 miles away from camp, they're going to have to get that skin off. They're going to have to get that
yeah,
hung, and they have to get it cooled off. So,
that's right.
but in order to help you handle that animal, you got to make sure you have rope. Like I said, I'd look into some mountaineering equipment. I'd look into small pulley system. Myself, I usually
Paracord.
just tie it off. I'll tie a leg, pull it to a sapling, tie
Yep.
it out over there, and
Tie it
I'm
off to
good
a
to go.
big rock.
Yep.
Paracord's good. It's light.
Yep.
It's really strong. And I carry a Gerber knife. I mean, a Gerber little hatchet type with me, and then I have a Havilon knife that's got multiple blades.
But
Uh,
whatever
uh,
you do when you're doing it, man, you need to be aware if you're in predator country. Now,
no doubt.
on the benefit side of that, I want to talk about the fact of the sense of accomplishment of being on solo. Now, Gilbert, before I get too far, like when we talked about each of these, like when we talked about the limited skill set. Now, again, we're talking about totally solo now, right?
Yep.
Okay. But if you start to include some of those other scenarios, like for example, let's take the it's just you part.
Yep.
Well, the difficulties is it's just you, right? But if you are hunting solo in a group, now some of those difficulties get lightened up, right? If you get an animal down or something like that, you're going to have a little bit of help. If you're having trouble finding animals, you got other people in camp that might be seeing animals someplace else. But at the same time, some of those freedoms can be lost a little bit because, if you're in that group, those guys, you got to have a communication. They might be worrying if you don't show up by a certain amount of time. So there's got to be communication with that. And so in each of these difficulties, I got to remember to kind of go back and touch up how it works out in those other scenarios as well. And like when you said you're all alone, when you're by yourself, yeah, it's like that. But it's cool. It's really cool when you're with a group and you're hunting alone. You might be camping together and hunting alone because now you get back and you got that camaraderie. You're not totally alone in that situation. Or if you're in that situation where you are with a buddy, but using solo tactics, again, that kind of mitigates some of that stuff, right? Okay. The whole thing with the timelines, anything that is extreme when you're by yourself is going to lighten a little bit when you're adding other people into your equation, whether it's a partner, whether it's a group. But at the same time, it can make things a little bit more complex. Like you said, gutting, breaking down the animal. By yourself, like we were saying, Ryan, man, it's just all you, and that can be a difficult task. But if you're where you can hunt alone, you can get that animal, you can get it started, get back and get help from camp, man, it just really benefits everything as far as that goes. And again, we're going to talk about plans for that as well. But the benefit I was going to get to was the sense of accomplishment. And I would say for most guys that go on a solo hunt, this is probably their number one reason to know that, you know what, I just hunted the most difficult Western animal there is, the icon of the West. I got on it, I took it, and I got it out all on my own.
Yeah.
And that feeling of accomplishment of knowing that you could do something like that, man, you feel like, Gil, you feel like you can accomplish anything, man.
Yeah, you feel like Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, there is a huge sense of accomplishment, especially like we put in last year where we were just spent when we got back to camp. I mean, been rocking for 2 days straight, ain't had any sleep other than just a little bit of nap time. But other than that, we're toting elk out of the woods. And I mean, we come back into camp and we got one more to go, and they're like, oh my God. And it wasn't an easy pack out, it wasn't a real long one, but man, I mean, the terrain that we had to haul him through is really tough, which comes into the next, difficulty is, packing him out, Joe.
Oh,
I mean, meat care time, your time can be very limited,
Sure.
and then you got to be real careful because, if you're in bear country, you got to be careful when you return back to you like we did. We waited until we ate dinner that night and then came back. If you return into a kill at night, I mean, bears will bed down next to their claimed kill,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's got to be aware of something like that. You got to make sure you're really noisy going back. You don't want to go in there
silent.
Yeah, you don't want to go in there silent. But if you're by yourself, man, packing out one of those critters, it's going to take a while. Ooh. I mean, if you're and again, when we get to our plan, number one thing on our plan that I talk about, you don't want to be in any further than 3 miles. If you're going to have to pack a critter out by yourself. That's just how I feel about it. Now, there's guys that have gone on in 5 miles and done that, but you figure getting out all those quarters.
I mean, I don't know how. In rough terrain, 5 miles is, 2 hours.
It's a ways. It's going to be a 2-day ordeal, and you better be in cool weather. So that's something to think about for the time of year. Again, you got to have a plan like that. So that is the tough part. Now, again, if you're hunting solo, that's real tough. If you're hunting solo by yourself, but you're camping with a group, you can get help on that.
Get some help. I would say, Joe, on our planning part, we'll talk more about that, but there are businesses out there that'll help you come pack your animal.
Absolutely. And that's going to be,
you can invest in that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're going to be a good distance away from where you're camping most of the time. And a lot of guys now are putting alpacas together and horseback and this, that, and the other, but there are actual companies out there that'll come pack your elk out for you.
That's absolutely true.
Yep.
And it's kind of cool. You watch some of those guys are using goats and everything like that, but even at that, think about it. You're going to have to pack some meat out or your gear, go get all that, get all the way back in there and do that. So you got to have a plan, and we'll talk about it on the next time. So let's go on the plus side. One of the big things I'm going to actually throw a couple of these together. A big thing that's a plus on there is when I'm by myself hunting, there's less scent, there's less noise, there's no one to blow up a situation. It's just me. It's all on me. Like you talked about before, about the skill set. Well, it's the same thing here. Now I've got a little bit less to worry about for me to be able to get in on an animal. And especially if I'm in that situation and there's a lot of critters in the woods, or I've got to worry about the thermals and stuff, I don't have to worry about signaling somebody else. I don't have to worry about somebody else stepping on a stick or doing something to draw attention. So that's definitely a benefit of being by yourself. You just have less to worry about, less opportunity for other people to blow things up.
One of the other difficulties I've been thinking about too, Joe, is just locating elk. Going to be difficult by yourself, no doubt. When you got a couple of different guys, you may be hunting in a group, they might be able to help you find something,
Right.
But man, when you're by yourself locating them, I mean, it's tough. There's only one set of ears, one set of eyes, you only be in one place.
It's all up to you. Right.
Yeah.
So again, that gets mitigated the more, and if you're one of those people that, and you're hunting in an area where you bump into other people and you start talking to them,
right,
you can get some help there. But being able to maximize your hunting opportunities, you better have a plan for that. So locating elk can be real tough if you're all by yourself, because it's just you, bud. You get nobody else, unless you're not living in a vacuum. There are people you can talk to.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to encounter, if you're hunting public land, which tons of us do, you're going to encounter people. You can either take that one or two ways. I remember early on in my hunting career of hunting public land and stuff like that, man, it used to grind on me a little bit running into people. Now, heck, it's a welcome deal. Hey, man, how's it going? We just another 250 yards away from running into something. I mean, we're in the woods with the critters. They're going to be around us. We've done our homework, our pre-scouting, done all the things that we think that we can do. We've scouted the area and looked at all the sign, and now it's just time for us to put the boots on the ground and make it happen.
Well, on the Joe benefit side, Gilbert,
yes,
one thing to think about is that I don't know if you've ever seen the difference between you. Well, I don't know, man. I kind of look at your truck and look at those Venezuelan mafias when they load up, man.
Man.
But really, when you're hunting solo, the amount of gear needed, you don't need as much space, and a lot of times those solo guys, they're going to do a lot of stuff. If you do our plan, you actually have kind of two camps going on. You got your base camp, and then you got your back camp, so that you can hunt with your camp on your back, right?
Sure.
And that's great. That all goes along with that, with the timeline thing. You don't have to worry about telling people and being back a certain place. You can hunt with your camp on your back. You can move with the elk. You can be with the elk at certain places, but your gear needs are limited. But listen, guys, you guys that are going to hunt by yourself, here's the one thing though. I know I'm supposed to be on the plus side here, but yeah, your gear's limited, but you had better double check everything that you have and make sure it's working. I mean, if you guys are depending on getting your water out of a creek or something like that, and your filter's not working for you, you're
Oh, yeah, you're
screwed.
gonna get sick.
Yeah, if you're going to be using dried foods and you're going to use your little stove out there and it doesn't work, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
And it's like you were talking about, Gilbert. If I'm going to be by myself and I use a release, I better
Yep.
have two releases,
Two.
because if something happens to my one,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my whole hunt is dependent on that release, if
Yeah.
that's all I practice with, right? So, it is so critical. Even though my gear is going to be limited that I got to take, I better make sure that it works for me, especially, bud, if the weather starts to go south.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, it's super important for you to battle test that gear too. If you're gonna hunt with something, you better use it. If you're gonna go use a brand new backpack, you better put it on your back and walk around with it for a little while. You're gonna buy you a new pair of boots, go break them in. All
Yeah.
of those things need to come into you understanding what your gear's capabilities are. You buy your set a little bit of rain gear or whatever, and it's, you hadn't tried it out, man, put it on in the rain, walk outside in it, see if it's going to.
If I am a solo on my own Jeremiah Johnson hunter, I had better use that gear before I ever went on an elk hunt. I'm just telling you, man. Because if you're putting boots on for the first time, the blisters that are going to happen. If you haven't broke in and used that camp gear and understand it and can set it up in the dark, you're setting yourself up for problems. Okay, you got to have great gear.
Joe will tell you a little bit more in the next series about the gear that you use and how to make dang sure that you use it before you go in the woods.
Absolutely, man.
No, on the difficulty side, Joe, would be, our safety net, weather, navigation, our communication, and our protection,
Right.
and then, disaster recovery. I mean,
Yeah.
gotta be real careful and cautious in certain situations,
Definitely, because if you're by yourself, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're by yourself, man, that safety net you're it.
That's it.
Weather goes wrong.
And your gear.
Yeah. Weather goes wrong, it's you. You have trouble with your navigation, it's you. You had better have a plan for that stuff, because you have to. You're not going to want to start running up and down logs. You're not going to want. I think back to Bear Grylls, man. I watched that show, and look, I love Bear Grylls. All right, this is not a downer on him, but that's a survival show, and I always see the first thing is they jump out of a helicopter, go rolling down the hill, jump off a rock, and the whole thing is in a survival situation. Number one is to make sure you don't get injured. So that's like all of you guys when you are solo. The difficulty of that is you've got to make sure that you do things in a cautious and in a careful manner in certain situations. You got to pick your terrain more carefully. You've got to you got to be diligent, man, because out there you have an accident, it's just you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the other thing, Gilbert, we got to make sure we include when we talk about our plan. We need to talk about what you need as far as your first aid kit, as far as that goes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The on the beneficial side, though, to doing this solo is hunt planning is so much easier. The toughest part of hunt planning is when you're talking with buddies or friends, is getting everybody at the same time. Shoot, y'all ought to see our camp. I bet we have 3 or 4 of every dang thing.
Yeah, because everybody's got 2 of everything.
Yeah. We end up with more crap.
Well, and look, good luck, good on us. I mean, I think the only couple of things we've ever ran short of is ice because it's warm. I mean, that's about it. Everything else we got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tea.
But
One time we run out of tea. That was tragic. We ain't doing that again. Joe and I like some hot tea in the morning.
Yeah, it definitely, going solo hunt planning is so much easier. It's all on you, your gear. You don't have to worry about anybody else's dates. And I think that's the number one reason most guys end up hunting by themselves is they just can't get other people to line out.
Yeah, I think so too. It's hard to get 5 or 6 guys to line up and get their days off. And so if you do, it's a beautiful thing, and everybody pitches in. But there's a lot of guys only have a couple, 2 or 3 days that they can go do this. So, they go at it alone. I know several of my buddies that have, they've asked to get in our group. They can't get in our group, so they go at it alone.
Yeah, right.
And man, it's tough on them, but they've learned a whole lot, and this show's helped them. Our shows helped them a lot. They're better woodsmen and better planners for this because of what the content that we're putting out.
Right. Exactly.
Another negative thing or discouraging thing too that's difficult is when you're in camp, there's no one to lie to, brother. Sharing stories, in the adventure and all of those things. I mean,
no, absolutely.
There's nobody to lie to,
Yeah, there's nobody to talk to, man.
You make you a Wilson, bring you a volleyball and make you a Wilson or something like that. I don't know if I'd do that or not, but I guarantee I'd have to. You know me, Joe. I'm a people person. I got to have somebody to talk to. I might go half stir crazy if I didn't have nobody to talk to for about 10 days. And I would lump, there are other things that are tough to do, filming, taking photos. But
right,
look,
right.
all of those things are easy to mitigate. I mean, these dang iPhones we got nowadays, man. I mean, they got a setting on them where you can, have a timer and you can set it up on your backpack. I've done a lot of different things, to get a photo with me and an animal. And I like that. I like taking a photo right fresh when I walk up on him. I mean, there's nothing like that. I mean, you see all these poses and getting 40 feet behind them and this, that. And I mean, those are cool and they look nice, but man, there is just something, man, just precious about capturing the moment.
They make it easier these days for guys that are solo to be able to do that.
Sure.
They've got like all them selfie sticks and stuff like that you can stick in your pack. But it is a difficulty being able to film and do photos, but it's also a benefit sometimes when you don't have to worry about it. I mean, for example, like this year when we were filming our hunts and stuff, when you try to coordinate that and get somebody filming and trying to get the kill on film and not take the shot until then, to be able to just relax and not worry about that and just focus on killing.
Yeah, and you got guys' souls coming off and all kinds of different stuff that you're trying to manage. You're in the middle of it, and I hear clunk, 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 and I look down, and my souls are coming off my boots, Joe.
Yep, absolutely.
We put so much work in that week that I absolutely walked off a pair of soles on some Cabela's Mindel boots, okay?
Guys,
these are top of the line.
Both the boots, the soles of the boots looked like his feet were talking. Big old mouth, flop, flop, flop. Yeah.
Got a bull coming into us. I mean, talking, screaming, maybe 300 yards out, and my shoes are flopping. And I'm like, time out, Joe, time. He's like, time out. There is no time out in Elkhorn. I said, no, man, I got to go, And the Venezuelan boys were on point, man. They're Manano's got him some paracord, and he's trying to lash my soles together and everything. And it worked for about 5 minutes, and then the paracord broke on all them lava rocks and everything.
I couldn't believe, man. You look so redneck, dude, trying to walk through the woods.
Man. I told him, I said, man, no, pardon my French, but to hell with this BS. I said, man, I'm going back to the dadgum camp and get me another pair of boots. I'll meet you guys up here when it's over. I knew it was going to happen too. I mean, the bull's hot. There's no way that I was going to get in there and mess that up for you guys.
Right.
And so again, it's about managing your equipment too.
Yeah, right. So
And all the stuff, like you said, it goes into filming and all that. I mean, it's hard as hell when you're
it
putting
is
4 or 5
hard, man,
guys in the woods.
and to not worry about it was, yeah, it's a little bit liberating, Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
I
it is.
imagine it is. Look, there's no doubt it got harder. It got harder when we were adding 1, 2, 3 guys to the set. I
Right.
mean, it got a little harder. When I
Yeah.
hunted with you, it was pretty simple, or when I hunted just me and Chav, pretty simple. But when you start adding guys to the set, it gets complex,
Yeah.
and you got to work through some issues. And there's always, if I'm around, brother, there's going to be an adventure. I promise you.
I'm going to add an area that we always have to deal with, and as a solo hunter, it's funny. It's both a difficulty and a benefit, man, because and it's conditioning. It's being in shape.
Yeah.
The great thing about going out and solo hunting is when you get done, you're going to be in real good condition, and the difficulty is if you aren't in good condition when you get out there,
You ain't going long.
it's tough. Like we talked
Especially
about
on that 3rd day. It's pretty easy to
day.
bitch up and stay in camp.
Yeah.
Because you are wore out, baby.
And we've always talked and told people, look, you don't have to look like no Arnold Schwarzenegger, man. That's not what it's about. But I always tell people.
No, because round is a shape.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always tell people, look, if you're going to swim the English Channel, you know what you got to do a lot of? Swimming, right? And if you're going to hunt elk, you better be doing a lot of walking, because Budrow, that's what you're going to be doing. And
and especially guys that are not from the altitude country, there's just nothing you can do. You can do some high intense, some HIIT training and stuff like that to help you with oxygen deprivation.
right.
But man, you really need to understand that if you are not used to that, you got to acclimate. You got to have a couple days to give yourself some time. If not, it's going to be miserable the first 3 or 4 days, especially if you go out there and try to hit it hard, right? Because I mean that bug will get you, and it's not because you're out of shape, I mean, look, Luis is in great shape, but almost every year that little bug gets him the first 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's funny, once you finally get in that rhythm, things get a little bit better. I can remember my brother-in-law, man, after a couple of days thinking he wasn't going to make it, and then his body started to break in, and things got better for him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another area that kind of has both sides difficulties and benefits is that when you're all by yourself, being organized with your small gear, your knives, when you're gutting an animal or your grunt tubes or your binos, man, there's nobody to say, you forgot something. So
it's all on you.
It's all on you. You better be organized or you'll leave stuff behind, man. But at the same time, you don't have somebody to be moving or misplacing your stuff.
That's true. Somewhere out there in the New Mexico elk woods is a really nice rangefinder, Joe.
Yeah.
And I've got every year I tell myself, put it on this lanyard. So, but then the dadgum thing somehow jacks up and I can't get the lanyard out. So then I just end up putting it in one of my bellows pockets.
Did you lose one last year?
Pants. Yeah, I did. Me and Chad. So Chad was on a bull. And we called that bull in. Actually, there were 3 bulls. We called that bull in, and the bull, there was a raghorn and 2 spikes. And the raghorn was walking right in on us 46 yards, and Chav just wasn't comfortable shooting that far. So let down on him, and he kind of boodled on in front of us. And then a spike come in at about 38 yards. But at the time where he was at, Chav couldn't see over the brush, and I could see over him and everything. So I'm trying to range for him and give him the range and everything. And I'm trying to move him too, to try to get him a better window. Right. And when I went to move him, I actually hung it on a little limb right there next to the tree, because these bulls were coming to us. We had them called up and they're coming to see man, where's the party? We hear y'all. Where y'all at? And they're kind of just filing in front of us. And there's a whole pile of elk coming out of the woods. And I just hung it right there on that little knob. We were on our knees, and then I had to make him stand up because we had some brush in front of us. And like I said, when I moved him, I just left it hanging there. And again, nobody to blame but my own self. We got into chasing them boogers after they got on past us to try to get him a shot, and it just didn't work out.
Right. And
But again, it's just me and Chav, and I ended up misplacing something on my own.
Right. Yeah.
So being organized and using your brain is
year before Chav did that with his rangefinder.
He did, yeah. Somebody's gonna get rich up there finding all them rangefinders now.
I tell
in
you,
an undisclosed area.
And I would say the last area, I'll hit that last area that I would say is a difficulty when you're out there solo well, it's not a difficulty. It's just kind of one of the burdens is that all the costs is on you. When you have a partner or you go with multiple guys, you guys can split a lot of things when you travel a long ways. You split gas, and guys can bring different pieces of equipment and stuff like that. But when now you're not going to need all that much. It is just going to be you, and depends on how extravagant you want to go. I mean, you can live off peanut butter and jelly and bologna and cheese like we did, and it don't cost all that much, But those costs are all yours. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it for our difficulties and benefits of the solo hunter. And next week, y'all, we're going to talk about plans for those various aspects of the solo hunt to help you to be ready for those, so that those difficulties are overcome. And then the following week, we're going to talk about solo hunting and calling strategies. And I sure appreciate y'all bearing with me, because I know I sound like I done swallowed a frog or something over here.
Not a problem, Joe. Such good content for what's coming up. I mean, look, today at 5:00 was the last time that you could put in for the New Mexico draw.
That's right.
So all these states are going to start filing in with their draws and everything. So guys are going to have to start making their plans. This will be on us before we know it. This coronavirus will be a thing of the past, and we'll get back to business as usual here in the good old USA and get to chasing some of them big boys here in September.
Well, I tell you what, that'd be nice, man. That'd be nice to get rid of some of the stuff that's going on right now, because, boy, I tell you, life is just a little bit crazy right now.
It really is, and our prayers and our thoughts and prayers will go out to all the people that are, that are
having to
affected
deal with this. Yep, absolutely.
It's some really crazy times in our country and in our state, in various states.
Yeah.
We were talking about this just a few minutes ago. I mean, not a case in West Virginia. What's up? They drinking all that moonshine over there in West Virginia. I hope we get somebody that'll kick us an email or a shout out from West by God, Virginia, and let us know how in the world has the coronavirus not escaped. Y'all escaped all of that, because
them boys don't put up with no Corona over there.
Exactly.
They don't drink no Corona.
They don't drink Corona. They drink apple pie moonshine, baby.
There you go.
Or some big cherry bounce. I mean, that's probably thwarting all of that.
So we're going to go to our ElkBros mailbox next.
Awesome.
And up first, when we're talking about people in our country, up first is Derek Baker from Oklahoma. Derek is in the Air Force, bud. Derek, thank you for your service, man. And
yes, sir.
He says, since I'm in the military, I can hunt on Fort Sill, which has a huge area just south of the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge. Now, you notice how these military guys can say where they hunt, because only they can hunt on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I've been scouting over there several days and never have any problems locating elk. Having access to such a large area with a good elk herd and at a cost low enough that I can start elk hunting this fall makes me really excited. There are some special rules for the hunting area, though, that don't allow me to do some of the techniques you guys talk about, such as no silhouettes or decoys and no trail cam. Anyway, Derek, so I'll tell everybody, I don't even own a trail cam, so I've never used one. My concern is that when hunting season comes around, I'll be able to locate elk, but not able to get them in close enough to get a shot with my bow. Any advice on what I can do to get them in close with just calls and scents I'm afraid they won't come in that last bit if they don't see an elk when they're hearing and smelling one.
Oh man,
Thanks for the great podcast.
They ain't been called a whole lot on that daggum military
No.
base, brother. I'm gonna tell you right. As soon as you fire that cow call up, get good with a good diaphragm call. And I'm telling you, they're gonna try to run you over. They don't have to necessarily. I mean, Joe, this was the first year that we really
Use a
used
decoy.
that predator
Yeah.
decoy. We've used some other Montana fold out. I mean, for a few years, but how many
Right.
years you hunt out of your life that you did not use an elk decoy? Right?
No, I mean that your bull, I don't know, like 8 years ago,
Yes.
and that bull last year was actually the first bulls that we probably killed with the decoy.
Yeah.
Eh, I really liked the way that ultimate worked last year. It's going to
Man,
definitely be in my arsenal.
solid.
But the big thing though, Derek, is to make sure that you use the techniques like we're talking about. You got to use. And I talked to I sent some emails and asked him about his terrain. He's got rolling hills. He's got some thick scrub. He's got some areas where there are some trees. They don't have the big tall trees and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
but they do have that thick brush. And the idea, Bud, is you've got to use that terrain so that those animals have to come in to a certain distance to be able to see you. You don't want to put yourself where you're looking at an animal 200 yards away calling and they're trying to see what's calling them. You've got to use depressions. You've got to use thick brush so that that animal has to come in to your shooting distance to try to see where that cow is or the bull is that's challenging them. And you want to throw those calls behind you. You always want to make them think that the animal's further back than what they are, so
And
that they
make
come
sure
into your
you're
shooting range.
downwind, man.
Right. And as
You
far
got to
as
use the wind.
yeah, sense, don't worry about sense, man.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that the wind's always in your favor so that they're never smelling you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not sense that we're using it. That's kind of a whitetail tactic that they use on different things. But
Yeah.
with elk, Bud, all we're doing is we're using the wind always, 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 always in our favor. And understand, if you listen to some of the things that we've said about scent, how a bull will try to a lot of times circle to get to the downwind side, so to use that to your advantage. But it's all about using terrain, about using the brush and the trees around you, the thickness of an area if possible. And now if you have an open grass area, you can still find rolling hills where you're down below, where an animal actually has to top out to be able to see what's down in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is what I would tell you as far as your advice to get that animal close.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how much elk hunting's done on Fort Sill, but they probably hadn't been a whole lot of calling done
Oh
there.
man, I think you're in high cotton, buddy.
Man, I want to see some pictures, Mr. Baker. I mean, golly, that may be some virgin elk hunting that you're going to be able to do. And
Yes,
man,
sir.
I'm telling you, those bulls will you catch it around close to that equinox and
Yep.
where they're fired up. It's going to be a little warmer in Oklahoma.
Buddy, he sent me a picture of some sheds he's already picked up, and that boy's going to have some fun.
That's awesome,
man.
And
Derek wanted me to tell military guys out there that you do have great opportunities at a lot of these bases for some great hunting of different kinds, and that you ought to look into that more. You guys get involved. In fact, I just had some guys right here from our Air Force base in Clovis, I believe. Holloman. It was Holloman Air Force Base. There's a group hunting out there. Big shout out to Holloman, you guys. And yeah, and
there you go.
Those guys are out there and they're hunting all kinds of critters. They do muzzleloader, bow, rifle, and it's a great opportunity. So big tip of the hat for all of our guys in service that are doing that, and glad to have you listening, and hope you guys are taking advantage of that. Up next is Alex Fedowa, and Alex sent in a question. And Alex, I'm not going to have a big answer for you, Alex, but I get in not giving you a great answer. I'm going to explain why. He says that he's a newbie at elk hunting and he's learning a lot from our podcast, which is awesome. He says he asked some questions if we would be willing to answer them. He says, I'm making a trip to Colorado OTC hunting. Awesome. Great state
Yep.
for it. I
Yep.
plan on hunting opening weekend. Excuse me, y'all. First week of September, I've e-scouted spots with food sources, north-facing slopes, water, and drainages. Dude, you're doing your homework. You're doing what you need to. I guess I'm looking for a seasoned guy's info on elk hunting that time of year. I have 4 units picked out. Maybe y'all could recommend a certain unit. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast. So first of all, it would be horrific for you, but for us to recommend a unit to you, especially on the air. Because it would fill up because other people would start going to that place. The other thing is we really don't want to be held responsible for the success or failure of your hunt sometimes. So we're real careful about telling people where to go, because you go there and say, God dang, those guys, man, they screwed me up, sent me to the wrong place. But
and Alex, if I could say something, you said you're looking for a seasoned guy's info on elk hunting that time of year. Man, go back to some of our first podcasts where we came
exactly.
out with this, because, dude, the content that's in those first podcasts, just go back to YouTube. Go to our shot placement podcast. It's one of the best podcasts we've ever done. Joe does a fantastic job of showing where we want to strike that animal.
And we have a lot of podcasts on early season hunting, right?
I mean, calling, you name it, how to get in close, how to close the deal.
For pressured areas.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pressured areas, all of that stuff, man, is covered in our previous podcast. So, Alex, get in there and start listening as much as you can. These are unbelievable seasoned guys that can tell you, that's when we hunt. We hunt that time of year. So
no, you're hunting the exact same time that we hunt, Alex. You're in that pre-rut to rut period when bulls are still kind of measuring each other, and they're just starting to think about herding up some cows. And it's a real dynamic stage that's happening there, especially 10 days before the equinox. So about the 10th or 12th to the 22nd in that phase is really a great time right in there. If you're a little earlier than that, you've got to work on things that are going to bring bulls to other bulls, because they're still kind of battlered up at that time. But like Gilbert said, go listen to some of our earlier podcasts, because we really discuss a lot of that. If you have any more questions, even more specific, or if it's something that you need a phone call or something, just send another question to us, send your phone number. We'll give you a yell, man. Okay?
Yeah, man, if you got 4 units picked out, go to some of those towns that are real close to those units, and go in some of the area sports shops and talk to the guys that are around there, man.
Yep.
Those guys are a lot, especially bow shops. I mean, outdoor shops, stuff like that. They're real eager to talk to people, and you can call them on the phone. You don't have to go there. I mean, if you're not living there, you don't have to go there, but just, bump them and see what kind of information they can give you on those 4 units that you picked out.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff,
Our next
Alex.
question comes from Felipe Perez from Miami, Florida. I wonder if he's one of those Flagami guys, or
I don't know, but I like where he lives. Miami in the house.
Yes, sir, Miami. He says, after listening to the last podcast about locating elk at night, I started to wonder what would be the best way to get close, or how would you handle a situation where you have found a bedded bull? Do you approach slowly, or do you wait for them to move? Besides getting downwind from them, what would be a good tactic to finish the deal? So
great question.
It's a real good question, man. So I would just tell you, Felipe, there's a lot of different parts to this in some sense. Like when we're talking
Listen
at night,
up, Felipe. You finna get some wisdom.
If I locate one at night, bro, that bull's not bedded. That bull, if I'm locating at night, early morning. Now, if I locate it at night, he's down to a feed area. I know where he's at. I'm going to get there early in the morning, an hour, 2 hours before daylight, and locate that animal in the same area. That bull is not bedded because he's not gotten to his bed yet. he's actually going to be moving to a destination. So the first thing I'm going to do, as soon as that bull tells me where he's at, I'm shutting up and I'm cutting the distance immediately. And I'm trying to get within a 200, 100 yards of that animal and start working that animal to be able to finish the deal. And it depends on what he is doing and how he reacts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I always start with a cow call. I'm just going to put one out there and see if that guy answers up. If he lets me know where he's at and he gives a yell and he's close, I'm already now looking for a way to set up. Now, I want to make sure that I don't, I got to be careful when I give that call out, because if I do it before I have any daylight, you're risking that animal getting on top of you before you're in shooting time and period. So that's something you have to think about. But that's what I want to do, is first close the distance on that. And again, we talk about that. In fact, the last podcast,
Yeah, even better you can see him, Joe.
What's that?
Even better if you can put eyes on him.
Yeah, definitely. If I've got eyes on him, but you've got to be careful, man. You're working the wind, you're getting in, you're cutting that distance. And if they're moving and feeding, you have a good chance of seeing them ahead of time. I've had lots of times that I've done that. But a lot of times I'll just get in there, I'll wait and I'll listen. If he sounds off, and if he's sounding off, I'm going to just shut up and let him do his thing. And I'm going to continue to work the wind and get in position and looking for what I need to do and make judgments off of what I am seeing at that point. If I can get in and move in and see that he's with cows, then I might, if he has actually cows with him, then I'm going to change my strategy a little bit. Instead of me talking to him, I'm going to try to invite his cows over to me. And I might try with a lost cow. I might even try doing a little roundup bugle and see what that does to him. I'm not going to do anything that sounds real intimidating. Basically, a roundup bugle is me telling his girls, hey, why don't y'all come over here and see if that really ticks him off. And then I'm going to read what happens from that point. And that situation could go a multiple different ways for that to happen. Now, I'm going to jump back. You said to a bedded bull. All right. Now, if you come and and you have seen a bedded bull, and you're talking about, do I try to sneak up on him? Well, dude, a bedded bull is a dreaded bull, because that bedded bull most of the time is in a situation where he's dead still and he's watching and he's looking for any movement.
And
so
he can see anything. He can see a gnat fly. I mean, seriously.
Exactly. He definitely can. So what I would like to do with that guy, if I've got wind in my favor and I'm on his level, I'm actually going to try to back off a little bit into a situation where I can try to start sounding like a bull with a cow. I would actually start with a cow call, and I want to get in a situation where I can no longer see him and he's not able to see me, so that animal, I want to try to find a nice little area that's kind of tight, what I call a tight setup, meaning that animal has to either come through something, over something, in order to see this other bull or this other cow. That's a tight setup, so that they have to give their body into my shooting range to be able to see who or what I am. You can try to stalk this animal in his bed. It might be fun to try to stalk him, but that's going to be a difficult road right there.
Especially if he's got cows, because he's got way more eyes.
Oh, if he has cows with him, there is no way I'm attempting that. I'm actually staying back, and I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to try to bring him over, because if he's bedded and his cows are bedded, I'm in high cotton, because that bull,
he ain't going nowhere.
He ain't going nowhere.
Not till they get up.
Yep, absolutely.
They get up, he's going to get up.
Right. So I have the opportunity to actually sound like another cow and a bull. That's where I'm going to start making those little glunks, those huffs, those groans. I'm not going to do a bugle. I'm going to sound like a bull that's working or tending a hot cow. And listen to one of our earlier podcasts on that. There's going to be more on that as well. But that's what I want to do. I want him. I don't want to challenge him so he gets his cows up and goes running off. I want to sound just like with some of those low vocals, those huffs, those pants, the glunking, and I want to sound like a cow every now and then. And if I sound like that bull that's got that hot cow, I guarantee you that son of a gun's going to get up to come check it out. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stress enough. The ability to move silently into the wind and not make any noise. If you can if that bull's got cows, if you can close the distance and get between him and his cows,
it's
over.
If you can get that to happen,
your success rate is going to go through the roof. Chav and I walked. I'm not talking about eased along. We walked through a herd of elk. I mean, walked through it, all bent over, humped over, just throwing a little cow call out there. We walked through a herd of elk to get to some bulls. Never spooked anything, right? But it's about, man, being in there with them and understanding. But we were downwind, right? I mean, they couldn't smell us for anything. So at the end of the day,
they weren't bedded though.
And they weren't. They were up
No.
feeding. Bulls were rounding them up. We saw
Right.
those bulls up ahead of us. We cut the distance, got in there, and made it happen, right?
Yeah.
But if you can do that, man, I'm telling you right now.
But let me tell you what, Gilbert, if those cows are bedded down with that bull there,
you're done. You better sit back.
That ain't going to happen. And I made the mistake because I actually did one time stalk in on a bull with cows, got in between them, and as soon as I cow called, coming from an area that they knew that there was no cow and there hadn't been any cow talk, they just got up and boogered out. So that's why I'm telling you.
Heck yeah, back out. Back out, wait for them to get up and start stirring.
Yeah, or just start acting like that bull, tending some cows, and I guarantee you come over there. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Gilbert, we're at time, bud, man.
Man, that went by quick, Joe.
It sure did.
So Joe and Steven and Ryan will try to get to your questions on the next episode.
Yeah, next time it'll be Joe. I guess that's Emmons and Steve Sanders. Sanders, I had a real good friend named Steve Sanders. That's so funny, man.
Right.
But we'll get Joe and Steve next time.
Man, that's fantastic stuff, Joe. I mean, it's been, all of this is going to help guys as they go through and understand that solo hunting can be very challenging, but it can be very, very rewarding. And Joe's giving you guys some of his finest techniques and what he's done over the last 30 plus years. And I mean, where are we at, Joe? 36 out of 37, 35 out of 36. I mean,
yeah, it's
a pretty solid number.
Yeah.
And this is all public land stuff, guys. Joe guides on one of the most premier ranches in the country. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, he sees tons of bulls, but he's also hunted his whole life on state property, state land, and killed a bull, like I said, 35 out of 36 years. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, that number keeps growing, but it's 34 out of the last 36 years.
Oh, okay, 34 out of 36. Well, look, I am an elk hunter. I will tend to embellish some things, but at the end of the day, it's an impressive number. This is really good stuff, great content. Joe, I can't wait for next week's podcast. Yep. I want all of our listeners, remind them all that if you like what we're doing, please rate and review us. Go on Apple Podcast. On YouTube, please rate and review us. If you have any questions, please send them all at info@elkbros.com. That's info@elkbros.com. And we'll definitely get you on the show. I like to say this all the time: husbands, hug your wives, and wives, kiss your husbands. But y'all might want to put some hand sanitizer on them lips, them hands. But at the end of the day, please hug your babies. Keep your broad heads sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
6 feet apart, y'all. Peace, peace.
Absolutely.